Hello and welcome to Day 7 of Unsourced Wald's Christmas Carol-A-Thon. We're heading back to yet another Odd Duck adaptation, this time 1988's Scrooged, directed by Richard Donner and starring Bill Murray. Now, what is there to say about Scrooge that hasn't been said dozens of times before? It's really hard to talk about because it's something that has been resoundingly agreed to be close to a classic. Fantastic performances, funny and inventive sequences, a sincere amount of satire that adds a refreshing flavor to the story. And yes, I know I've done a couple of kind of repetitive adaptations already in this gimmick month, while Scrooge itself is kind of as timeless as ever. Aside of the obvious 80s panache and reliance on gags and eccentricities of the time period, it could work as a movie made today. But there is something about Scrooged, a version of A Christmas Carol that transplants the story into the then modern day United States, and that it is one of the few big and mainstream adaptations to really contend with the idea of A Christmas Carol as this big cultural icon of a story. Sure, there are other adaptations that do a sideways glance at the book and play a side reference here and there, but nothing that would really interfere with them going through the motions and taking themselves very straightforwardly. Scrooged, however, is founded on the really ingenious premise and conceit that it is also partly about the production of an adaptation, with both the story of the film and the in-universe TV specials rehearsals and eventual final performance sometimes syncing up with each other and really sort of entangling with each other. Halfway playing the idea of retelling a story straight-faced, but also keeping a natural flow and pace with its own unique divergences, which some have outright decided to consider parody, but honestly I think that it helps make sure that it never strays too far into outright mockery. It's self-aware about being cloying, it knows what makes the original tale so effective, and so has the common sense to let the book speak for itself, or showcase why even though we have a character who is very self-aware and knows pretty much most of the beats of the genre, is still going through these motions. He can't help but follow along because there's something compelling about the narrative as a whole. It's a very nice, reflective take on the story and its impact. So you can have the upped ante on the horror and the adult situational comedy aspects. You can have the satire on media sensationalism. You can have the increased Reagan 80s cynicism. All things that I enjoy, don't get me wrong. They're hallmarks of the movie and give it such a fun and effortlessly entertaining flavor. I mean, The Night the Reindeer Died, that's phenomenal. They've made that movie like 5 times now in real life. But that doesn't get in the way of, as the kids call it, the movie doing some reconstruction. The best example of this has to be right after the Ghost of Christmas Past scenes. A fantastic sequence, and possibly one of the best retellings of the Christmas Past segment in any adaptation, as we are given this really intimate look at Frank's childhood and early years in a way that, while clearly following the framework of the original story, does so in a way that hones and puts into sharp relief Frank's particular and personal failings that are wholly his own. Because while Bill Murray's character of Frank, who is the Scrooge of this version, there isn't much about him that is like the traditional Scrooge. He's vain, pompous, self-centered, and typical Murray smug. All he has on Scrooge is, well, the greed and the way he pushes people away. But the rest is just this thoroughly modern, slick back, and narcissistic character that was very prevalent during this time. And yet, at the end of this Christmas Past sequence, we are treated to this wonderful moment where Frank is sent back to his regular life in the middle of rehearsals for this live studio production of A Christmas Carol, and the movie seamlessly pivots and enmeshes itself with the scene being played out in the period piece.
Your nobler aspirations fall off one by one till the master passion, greed, engrosses you. Farewell, Ebenezer. May you be happy with the path that you have chosen.
Well, I am happy with the path that I've chosen, you little bitch. In fact, I couldn't be happier. What are you, crazy?
It's like magic every time for me. If there's one thing I realized after watching all these adaptations, some wildly divergent and some barely recognizable, is that you never really get to lay things side by side all that often. You're left to work off your previous knowledge or familiarity with the story to really guide you through them. But the way this lays things out, it's like this Moore and Morrison-esque meta-commentary. It's just capable of lining things up in a way that no other really can or has. You get this perfect demonstration of how even though all these movies try to put their own mark on things, that there's a reason why the core themes and emotions and narrative resonate, even if the characters and the aesthetics shift into new positions. And that's wonderful. That's what makes it so special to me, and why I make a point to rewatch it multiple times every holiday season. And yeah, it's just also a really great film throughout. Alfred Woodward as our resident Bob Cratchit is remarkable. She holds down the movie with a strong personality, and is possibly the dual protagonist, bringing depth to an equally important and emotional character arc. Karen Allen as Scrooge's ex is also uniquely handled for this kind of story. This being one of the few versions where Scrooge's former flame is not only still around, but where love and hope for romance is still a possibility. It's nice, and maybe a little optimistic, but it works for the uproarious and energetic ending this wants to have, and that's the sensibility. This wants to really focus on the emotional upswell of things, and I think it does it better than most. And I can't really think of a single bad performance or decision of how to amalgamate things between a period piece and also something that tries to update things. Maybe the Ghost Scrooge is present. I love Carol Kane, but I sincerely don't understand what they were going for with her. It's a fun performance, but it's a bit odd. And, well, as you concede, I guess you could say the same thing about Past being a cabbie. The only one this time around to get the more formal treatment is Christmas Future, whose head is even a TV, so it's all up in the air. But in a way, that's what makes this movie the textbook example of what to carry over when adapting something, when updating it, and what you can change and make your own. Because none of the eccentricities distract from it telling the story with any measure of faithfulness, and this film handles a lot of the hurdles better than most. So despite the shifts in tone, mood, and even payoff, it understands one vital thing. That in the end, you feel and believe the transformation of the human spirit, and even the spirit of Christmas itself. It's all in the name, really. Is the ending sing-along song schmaltzy? Hell yes. And that's exactly how it should be. 9 out of 10. So yeah, I really enjoy Scrooge. Let me know what you think below. Do you like Scrooge? Have you seen it? Are you going to see it? Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and see you again tomorrow for day number 8.